Hello, everyone, and welcome to a conversation with Shuddhashar FreeVoice. I'm Lisa Knight, a professor of anthropology and religions of South Asia at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. And I'm co-director and editor of Shuddhashar FreeVoice. Shuddhashar is a platform and organization committed to freedom of expression, democratic culture, and social justice. We publish quarterly magazine issues on topics that are critical for today. And the most recent one was published on August 1st, 2025, and the focus was on youth. Today, we are with Friba Rezai and Samadi U, two activists who exemplify the power of grassroots organizing and hope across the diaspora. They are here today to discuss their work and the pieces that they wrote for us in our issue 44 on youth. This conversation is moderated by Evan Vesmar and Ella Harris-Perrin. They are two of our remarkable and very smart summer Oslo Scholar interns. And so I will hand this over to them and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Friba and Samadi, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to speak with you. Your articles were so incredible and very important to hear. And we were all very thankful that, we were able to share them and that now we're able to share this time with you. So I'll pass it to Evan for our first question, but thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. Our first question is simply for each of you to go one by one and introduce yourself and talk about the work that you do.
So, you want me to start first, Evan?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, my name is Samadi, just like Lisa introduced. Basically, I was born in Cambodia and I grew up in Cambodia, and then later I was brought to the U.S. by my dad when I was 9. Um, uh, I think my activism and my work start from my family's. First, it began with my grandfather, who was a Cambodian educator. He was a professor that taught history to younger generation of Cambodians, and later on, our country has a genocide, the Khmer Rouge, which is they call it the Red Cambodian. Pol Pot, in short, came in power and want to create this ideologies of a slave state. And my grandfather, as an educator, they see him as a threat, so they took him away in 1978 in front of his 10 children. They never found his body. His bone was piled up in the killing field, and this one encouraged my dad to become a politician and want to fix a broken society, because in 1993, is an era of peace. The United Nations want to implement, a free and fair elections in Cambodia. They invested over $1 billion to organize a free and fair election. That's when my dad decided to be involved. And Cambodia see a light of democracy, but after the UN pulled out, it went back to being dictatorship. And the former Khmer Rouge commander, which is Hun Sen, the current former prime minister and current president of the Senate, took power for 40 years until today, and successfully passed down the power to his son Hun Manai, just like the North Korean Kim Jong Il to Kim Jong Un. And my father was exiled in 2017 out of Cambodia, and this one encouraged me to become, a Cambodian activist, because, we have to keep carrying on the fight through generations, and I'm the third generations of, activists for Cambodia. And this is the reason why we found, Khmer Movement for Democracy. First, it stemmed from my dad's work as a politician, from Cambodian National Rescue Party, exile out of the country, and now we co-found an organization with my dad boss, the vice president of the political party, which is Musa Kua. She's the president of our movement now. She resigned from being a politician to run a grassroots-led youth movement called Khmer Movement for Democracy, and I co-founded the organization with her. And our work is basically focused mainly on youth-led, educating the Cambodian diaspora. We have 3 million Cambodian diaspora outside Cambodia. And they all younger generation, So it's very crucial to provide unfiltered education to them and make sure that they adopt into a democratic-led country like South Korea, Japan, Australia, United States, Europe, and also Canada also. So that's why it's very important to, have a youth-led movement to provide education to them. And one focus that we did on is transnational oppression, provide safe housing when activists fleeing from Cambodia, when Hun Sen wanted them to throw them in jail or wanted to kill them. So we basically provide safe housing in Thailand as a, work closely with the UNHCR to provide them permanent permit before they on their way to third country. And also mainly on debate session also. Organizing globally to, if they able to debate, that means they able to question the regime, misinformation campaign and so on. So this is just a short introduction of me, and thank you for asking such a great question. And I took a lot of the time, so maybe Freeba can help them carry on.
Thank you so much, Ivan, Ella, and Lisa, and also Samadhi for the opportunity. My name is Freeba Rezai. I was born and raised in Afghanistan. At age of 18, I became the first woman to represent Afghanistan at the 2004 Athens Olympic Games. And I came to Canada in 2011, and I've been living here since then. And I graduated from University of British Columbia. I now lead a nonprofit called Women Leaders of Tomorrow. Our mandate is to empower Afghan women through education and sport, because both are equally important and vital in women's empowerment and visibility and human rights activism and for human rights activists. My story is very similar to Samadhi, why and how I became a human rights activist, because of the injustices in the Afghan society, particularly the discrimination against women and girls, and the systematic discrimination against ethnic minorities, religious minorities, LGBTQ, and other people. Because I couldn't take the discrimination anymore, and I couldn't just submit to the status quo, whatever the authorities imposed on the youth, on me. And I was very young when I started my activism. And I took the matters on my hand, because I thought that if these leaders are not going to change it, I have to do something to change it, because simply I can't take it anymore. And here we are with Shuddhashar, and I would love to continue the conversation, and I look forward to questions, conversations, and comments. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Those were two beautiful introductions, and I really appreciate it. So I wanted to start off, we were, reading both of your articles again, and in both of your articles, you really highlight the importance of grassroots, small scale change making within your communities, and how small actions compound to make larger scale change. So Freeba, for you, as you said, that looks like empowering young women through education and sport and building that community. And Samadhi, that looks like grassroots political organizing and knowledge building. And, you're both creating these communities, and those are connecting to others. And yeah, so I guess I just wanted to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about what smaller, more individual compounding actions you're taking and how you see that, expanding. Whoever feels inclined to answer first, go ahead.
So I answer first if Frida would like to take some time. So basically, on grassroots movement, we have to admit that before we in Cambodia in 2013 we tried to contest the elections, and the regime really want to rebuild Cambodia like Thailand, a hybrid democratic country. So as a result, they allowed all the NGO, civil society organization inside the country of Cambodia and organized a somewhat election that being monitored by the West. That's what they called. And we took 44% of the seat in the parliament of Cambodia. And, a lot of people have hoped, but the regime saw that we took a very large momentum as an opposition. So they dissolve and exile us out of the country. So what do we do? Political party won't work, so we have to shift to movement building. Before, it's like, I also read Freeva article. The younger generation doesn't have voices in our culture, in Asian culture. You're supposed to listen to the older generation and not ask questions. If you trying to be smart, they would say you disrespectful toward the old generation. I was able to bridge the gap and say that if you really want to care about the diaspora and the younger generation, you got to take the ideas of the voice of the youth. So the youth, they want us to organize grassroots movement building. For example, in South Korea, we have 50,000 migrant workers between 18 to 25 years old because Cambodia have no jobs. After you, legally able to fly out of the country, you got to go find job at a different country that able to send money back home. And they say that we want to learn how to debate. So we organize debate session for the youth. When we debate, we basically debate on the topic of, for example, what is 1993 Paris Peace Accord that Cambodia democratic movement keep on pushing? Is basically to allow Cambodia to have free and fair elections, allow youth to express their voice without thrown in jail, and Cambodia have to remain neutral in Southeast Asia because that time communism spread. So when they learn about this, they're able to go into the Cambodian constitution that adapt what the Paris Peace Accord adapt by the United Nations. So when they learned their right, they can challenge the regime from outside the country and send, word back home to, hey, mom, dad, sibling, in South Korea, democratic country, we learn about this. And as a result, I think what you have been learning is being brainwashed inside the country to only think to peace and not ask for change within the country. Hun Sen, the regime, they keep implementing this idea into the people who live inside the country, saying that if you bring change through democratic process like the West ideology, war will happen again. The genocide will take upon Cambodia again. History will repeat itself. So an older generation like my grandmother would, if I were to stay in Cambodia, she would tell me, don't bring any change to our country. We don't want genocide to happen again because she suffered it through firsthand. And those ideologies spreading through the younger generation of Cambodia. And Cambodia have one of the most youngest population because the genocide wiped all the older generation out, and we have between 18 to 35 years old of almost 80% youth population inside the country. This is why the regime is so afraid, of us as a movement go and teach them about their right, and also the how to debate and challenge the regime from outside the country on a democratic soil. While they working on those country, they also able to send word back inside saying that this is not a democratic country and this is not the life we want to live. So this is we call it the micro circle of trust. We take it maybe 6 to 10 people for each debate session outside the country, like in South Korea, Thailand, Japan. So like I just mentioned. So this is the grassroots that we are building. And also we able to submit a petition and also work on Cambodian Human Rights Act within the United States with the youth population also. We take them to Washington, D.C. to talk with legislator, congressmen to help make sure this bill pass, the Cambodian Human Rights Act passed along this, so the regime can be holding accountable and not come to the U.S. Freely. So that's some of the work that we did that I can think of right now, grassroots led movement on Cambodian diaspora globally.
Thank you. That was very good explanation. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of youth's voice, because youth is the people who are going to grow up to be the adults in society, whether we want it or not. That's just a fact that nobody can change it. When I was younger, I saw and experience discrimination and injustice and a broken system, corrupted system, horrible, horrible leaders and politicians. And I always questioned that. But nobody listened to me and nobody cared what I said because of the cultural barriers and also because of the oppression against youth. Youth's voice is always silenced because youth are seen as and perceived as amateur, inexperienced, and also not like intelligent yet or intelligent enough because the youth is not fully grown adult, which is often mistaken by the adults and the elders in the community because youth is in that time or moment in their life where they are exploring and they're experiencing everything firsthand. And there's something naturally to the youth that you can you can distinguish between good or bad when something happens to you. For example, the youth activists, like, they know something is wrong in the society and they want to question that and they want to fix it. But because of the previous cultural practices and oppression from the government and the authorities, um, the youth is always silenced. So what we do with our program, Women Leaders of Tomorrow, we have educational programs. We have educational programs for adults, and we have a specific program for youth. And how that program works, and I'll explain it in details. So we have scholarship programs. We receive applications and we vet the most qualified youth girls from Afghanistan, and we bring them to Canada to study for secondary education. So this is for high school. And that's a specific program. And the name of the program is ELM, ELM, which means Empowering Limitless Minds. And the name was chosen from the very students that we are currently serving, the youth, because they came up with the name and they want to say that you need to empower us because we have the limitless minds and we have the creativity and incredible intelligence and we are intelligent. So we have a specific program. The program has been serving 7 students from Afghanistan, 7 girls from Afghanistan currently, and we are expecting 6 new students to arrive in Canada this month, actually, August 2025. So these are all based scholarship, and this is exclusively merit-based scholarship. Why? Because I want to make sure that this youth is supported and they have the opportunity to speak up and share their ideas and also reach her full potential. Because I don't want them to experience what I experienced when I was in my when I was a teenager and when I was a youth. So because this program is also the ripple effect of my work and human rights activism. And we use education and sport to empower these women because without an education, youth will not be very powerful because knowledge is power. If you want to challenge a wrong and unjust authority, you better have the knowledge and experience and education what you're talking about. So for them, the education is crucial to empower them to have critical thinking, writing ability, reading ability, because we want to fight the oppression and the Taliban through education and pens and pencils, not violence, because violence is wrong and violence is not the answer. And violence is also temporary. We want to have like a long-term effect. Another reason that I care so much about youth because according to the United Nations, Afghanistan's population is about 40 million. And more than 60% of the 40 million people is youth under age of 30. So we have a lot of youth and each one of them is very, very, very important. And the reason that we care and I care about grassroots activism and work because we are small but mighty. When we are small and grassroots, there's less bureaucracy for us. there's less hurdle for us for policies and procedures. We are just mission driven. We just want to execute our programs and the work, and we want to see the results. To be very honest, the stage where we are right now, when frankly speaking, what's happening in the world, we don't have time for bureaucracy. You have to empower the youth, give them the platform to speak. As everybody is undoubtedly aware right now that the Taliban have returned in August 2021, and that has been 4 years. As soon as they have returned, one of their edicts that they issued was banning education for women and girls about third and sixth grade. Why? Because they don't want women and youth to have education, because as I said, education is power. Because when you have education, you have the critical thinking to question the Taliban's regime. And Taliban don't want that. They want to keep an entire nation and generation ignorant, uneducated, so they can dominate and they can practice their oppressions and power over them. Because an uneducated mind can follow whatever he or she is told. But if you have the education, you can tell between the right and wrong, and you want to protect your natural, basic human rights. And the Taliban have also banned sports for women. So all the gyms, sports facilities are closed for women and girls. And they have also imposed a punishment if women and youth or people are gone to physical classrooms or any gyms or recreational centers or any sports facility. The punishments are severe. It includes flogging, torture, and so many other horrible, horrible actions from the Taliban. The only reason the Taliban want to do is because they want to oppress people so they can dominate. And it has been 4 years, and the United Nations and so many other human rights activists, including myself, declared it as the gender apartheid because it completely meets the definition of apartheid. And that's what the Taliban wanted to do. And that is our fight against the oppression as human rights and women's rights activists.
Thank you so much, Friba. And thank you, Samadhi, for sharing as well. I wanted to follow up with you, Friba, on the importance of knowledge. You know, you mentioned knowledge is power, and you're obviously with your organization is trying to give young students that power through education. You also say that the Taliban are trying to keep people ignorant. So how do you try to combat misinformation in governments that are trying to, you know, hide the truth about oppression or injustice that they're perpetuating?
When we tell the youth to have critical thinking, we also support them to have research skills, to be able to read the fake news versus real news, and to be able to tell like the impact that it's going to have. Um, it always comes back to empowering them so they can distinguish between that. With nowadays, with the AI, with the fake news and fake media and everything, so accessible, so easy. And the dangerous thing is that now this fake news can go through the internet, and even with the poor internet connections in Afghanistan, people can still see it on their phones and their social media, so it can influence them. But when they have the knowledge and they can go do research, uh, they will make their choices. They make their own choices, and they can tell whether they should follow this particular uh, propaganda or ideology or not. The students that I work with, the female students from Afghanistan, they are very intelligent, and I'll give you an example of how they are bypassing the gender apartheid and Taliban's regime to get an education. So I was in the middle of an interviewing one of the students for a scholarship. She was 17 years old, and she was in Afghanistan with a poor internet connection with her Android phone. And the phone is probably like $100, not more than that. But she had internet connection. She attended her interview with me because she badly wanted this scholarship. And we were talking about the internet, and she said she mentioned that she has VPN because she was able to access critical things and things on the internet very freely without any restriction. And I asked her, how do you do that? And she just rolled her eyes and she said, it's VPN. We know how to use a VPN. And for her, it was very easy. So the youth is also learning that how to fight the Taliban and these oppressive regimes when they have the knowledge and practice. So the VPN as used in so many other countries as well, like where the internet's banned, like North Korea, like Iran, Azerbaijan, and a few other countries. But they found their way because we say that knowledge is a light in the darkness, and the light will always find its way out no matter what. As soon as there a crack in the darkness in the room, it will always find its way out. It's still natural. It's natural for the humans to seek knowledge because our minds are very curious minds. We have curious brain that we want to always learn and have education. Yeah, I hope that I have answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, and then Samadhi, I just wanted to follow up with you and ask you a little bit more about the Khmer movement for democracy and how it can unite people and educate people about their democratic rights from outside of Cambodia. So kind of circling back to the original question, when we're thinking about expanding and building movements, these small actions that compound, how can the Cambodian community transition from an opposition party to a movement within Cambodia, and how is that happening, and how do you see it continuing in the future?
So one short message is small win add up for the movement. An opposition party want to oppose the elections against the regime, which is very somewhat impossible because top leaders being thrown in jail, being exiled, some lost their life. So it's somewhat a very difficult mission to do so, and you need international community support to oppose an election. But a movement, like I said, small win add up. So one family in the diaspora, if they're not being deported, one student that can attend Khmer Movement for Democracy, we have an academy called Gamle Freedom Academy, Gamle, who is a professor, he talked about the regime inside the country and got killed almost 10 years ago. He got shot in the head in the gas station. So we carry on his legacy and name an academy after him. And and one village in Cambodia that stopped the believing in Cambodian regime propaganda, then we would be successful. This would be a small win for us on the grassroots level, and this would end up become a tide and a big flame that the regime cannot stop. So this is the reason why we created Khmer Movement for Democracy, to create this small spark of flame around the globe, around the diaspora, until it become a big one, to the point that the regime can no longer extinguish or hide the truth or hide the propaganda that they spread. This is the reason why Khmer Movement for Democracy was created, is to focus on the youth and to educate them.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a bit about the regimes that you're fighting against. So both the Taliban and the Cambodian government's regimes have endured for many generations. And as you mentioned, this week marks the 4-year anniversary since the Taliban returned. So how does activism affect for both of your movements evolved or change over time, as governments change or if governments gain power?
With Freba? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure.
Freba.
Thank you. I read Samadhi's article. It was incredible. He talked about Khmer Rouge and killing fields, and everybody knows what happened to Cambodia. And that's one of the things that should never, ever happen again in the human history. And there are a lot of similarities for our work, because we are both up against this huge regime and a very oppressive regime. But because we have strong principles for human rights and democracy and freedom, we are fighting. And as somebody said, that it will become a flame that will become unstoppable. So definitely, the activism definitely changed over time, given the changes that happened in governments, in the leadership. Right now, the biggest tool and the most powerful tool that we have is social media. is the internet, because internet's becoming more accessible even in developing nations with a poor internet connection and power. People are becoming creative, so if they don't have 24-hour electricity, they buy power banks and portable batteries to make sure that they're connected with the rest of the world. And right now, I cannot emphasize enough the importance, how important internet is for Afghan women and youth and men as well in Afghanistan, because that's the only way, the only portal that connects them with the rest of the world. So the big difference is that when the Taliban ruled in 1990s in Afghanistan, Afghanistan became a dark hole and became isolated from the rest of the world. And Taliban, no matter whatever they did, the world would not know about it. It was not on the news. Only a few very brave journalists from only well-established news channels like CBC, CNN, and New York Times, those people traveled because they had the capacity and resources and the budget, and they could only report that. But right now, whatever Taliban do, it shows up on social media within a second, and the youth is constantly reporting that about the Taliban oppressive regime, whom they arrested today, what edicts they issued today, what they said on media today. And even the Taliban leaders have social media accounts. They exist on X and Instagram. They have email addresses. They speak very good English, and they can write on social media as well. So this is the biggest change that I have seen. And this is also what I mentioned in my article, that in Afghanistan, since the internet became available and accessible in, I want to say 2003 and 2002, where this was where the ordinary people could have phone and their data on their phones, the activism for human rights boomed because their work, because they could text each other, they could write on the internet, on the internet. So, and this is also one of, and the reason that why oppressive regimes always cut off the internet, like in Iran, North Korea, and a few other dictatorship countries, because they know the power of the internet. So that's one of the biggest changes that I have seen. Also, another change that I have seen is that youth are more bold now. They're confident and they're outspoken. A few changes that in the world happened because of it was youth activism. For example, Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai, and we have so many youth activists from Afghanistan, to name a few, just like 17, 18 years old, who are standing up against the Taliban regime, and they're demanding for their rights to go to an education, to go to school, to have an education. So the youth is becoming more powerful these days than they did, say, 30 years ago. Thanks.
Yvonne, would you like me to answer the question also?
If you'd like, yeah. If
Oh,
I can say it again if you want.
yeah, if possible, please do.
Yeah. So I was curious to learn about how has activism for your movement evolved or changed over time.
So yes, thank you, Freeba. I'm very inspired by your statement. You make me think that from your fight, youth is the engine of the nation against the regime. And it made me think that when girls claim educations in Afghanistan, they claim their own futures. And same can be applied for Cambodian. When the Cambodian youth claim democratic participation, we claim our country back from dictator. So that's very inspiring. I feel like then before inside the country, when we able to mobilize, we have big marches against the regime. We have charismatic leadership, like the opposition leader Sam Rainsy, and also face heavy repression. And now we decentralize and give power to the youth around the diaspora outside the country, distributed leadership to the youth around the globe, flexible tactics, and stronger digital security. Like Freeba said, we use Telegram, Signal, and to organize protests globally. A youth in United States can arrange a dominoes effect protest with the youth in Japan, the youth in South Korea, Australia, and Canada, and so on, to have those dominoes effect and cross-border coordination. Then we don't have that. We don't have all this technology to help assist us. And now, it's different than the Khmer Rouge era. Before, we don't have technology. We don't have, social media like Facebook, Instagram, or X. We call it before it was Twitter. And now in Cambodia, the regime leave one channels open, which is Facebook, because in order to spread, propaganda, threat, transnational repressions across the board to the diaspora, he need at least one channels open to do so. So they leave Facebook open without being filtered by so in Cambodia they use this technology from China, from the CCP, called the Great Wall. So it basically filtered all the information just like China did to the outside world. However, one channel that keep open is Facebook. So we use that channel that being opened by the regime to spread propaganda and misinformation back inside the country through diaspora. So this what changed our activism. And when a lot of Cambodian diaspora using Facebook to spread message, this would generate views, and this would give them the ideas that, hey, this is different than what the government spread inside the country. That this is not what people from the outside see. It's like you see those through the small window, and youth today, they are like the translator of the truth and builder of bridges, both inside our country right now, on a micro grassroots level inside Cambodia, between generations. The older generation, like my grandma, who believe change should not happen, and the youth now should believe that change should happen, because we cannot live in the 1990s forever. We have to move on. Cambodia need democracy. Cambodia need economic development. Just like iPhone. Why do people wait in line to buy a new iPhone every year? So it's like that. Human brain tend to develop, especially after generation passing to the next generation. And between on the ground community and diaspora, between fear and action, this what allowed us to keep fighting. And this what give the ideas to oppose the regime through technology and social media. So this is what I have to say for the activism now and then, and what is different. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both so much. And you both touched on this, the importance of the internet and social media in organizing and connecting. But I just wanted to ask you both to briefly touch on the way that you understand, the diaspora as a connecting force. How do you imagine and understand just this diasporic connection and supporting people both, in country and around through social media and internet and otherwise? Just if you have any words about that specifically.
So I think it's important to, the most important question here is, how do you make sure your diaspora-led movement is not seen by the people inside the country as people who only represent the outside diaspora and doesn't talk about what's going on inside the country. So what happened in Cambodia is the regime still want to show that they have somewhat democracy, because they don't want to be sanctioned by the West or the European Union. Just like recently, the new administration, President Trump, cut down the tariff of Cambodia from 49% to 19%. So when the U.S. wants something, they want, a democratic value in return. So the regime have to show that. So inside the country, the regime does allow opposition to operate, but they want to make sure that they're not strong enough to oppose them in the election when the election time comes. So we say, how about we don't oppose the election? We just use this small opportunity to go and educate grassroots people on the ground on how to participate in the upcoming election in 2027 and how to practice their right. We're not going to talk about, changing the government, because that's not, they don't want election to change the government. We just educate them, on their rights, democracy, and also Cambodian constitution that being created to, appease the democratic country. And also, this is why I go to South Korea, maybe once every 3 months, and also Japan, and also Australia, to keep the fresh ideas of what the youth want in those specific continent. So let's say right now the hottest topic is the war between Thailand and Cambodia. This was created by Hun Sen. He basically leaked the voice between his private conversation with the Prime Minister of Thailand. The Prime Minister of Thailand called him uncle. Please help me. The Thai military doesn't want me to become prime minister. They want to take power away from me. So uncle refer to Hun Sen, which is still hold a lot of power inside Cambodia. And to the Thai people, they see that why would a head of state of Thailand back the head of state of Cambodia, to help them? So as a result, this show weakness within Thailand. So Hun Sen caused this internal conflicts within the Thai government to cause this war between the border clash between Cambodia and Thailand that recently happened. And the youth said, we want to mobilize a protest. Hun Sen said that, no, we should blame that Thailand attack first, to make sure that they are the, instigator to hurt Cambodia. We said this is not the right way, because when the citizens of two countries hate one another, this will cause conflicts to our 2 million Cambodian migrant workers in Thailand. Discrimination will happen, hatred between people happening. It's like Russia and Ukraine. So we don't want that to happen. As a result, we have to ask, okay, how can we take the youth idea and mobilize a protest in South Korea to show that we want peace. We want a ceasefire between the two countries, and not follow Hun Sen agenda to create hatred between the people of two countries. You have to know that in Cambodia, when it comes wartime, people will choose nationalists over democracy. And this is what Hun Sen want. When people choose nationalism, they forgot about all democratic value. They forgot about free and fair elections. They forgot about transnational oppressions. And they able to mobilize under one front within the regime to go to war with another country. And this would boost Hun Sen as a national hero of Cambodia. And election would not happen in 2027 if this war keep happening. So we have to say that Cambodia want peace. We don't want war. So as a result, the youth can take the initiative on the protests globally to show that Cambodia doesn't want war. No one attack first, but we want peace between two countries. So when we said we want peace, this allowed us to shift back into our agenda of democratic value, free and fair elections, and follow the democratic principle and not follow what the regime want on their agenda. So I think it's very important, and the people inside the country does receive the message. And now inside the country, they shift from nationalist movement into supporting the regime and forgot about democratic value into saying, yes, Cambodia want peace. We ask the international community to step in and help Cambodia to prevent this war from happening. Again, the ceasefire between the two countries. So it's about, being flexible and value the ideas of what the youth want. If you go against them, you're going to see as an isolated movement that doesn't resonate what they want inside the country and outside the country. So this what make us somewhat, in touch with inside the country and also the youth voices globally around diaspora.
Just adding on that,
Mhm.
diaspora and activists in the country are a great combination. Actually, it's a perfect combination, because the youth and the activists who are in the country, they are facing the first-hand experience, and they have the insight, and they have the people on the ground there. And then activists in diaspora, they are in a most of the time they're in a better situation. They have access to the resources. They are in democratic countries where they can speak about them or about that. So they help the activists in the country And their connection and relationship is crucial to be successful, to bring democracy to a country and guarantee human rights. For example, we use internet to educate and teach girls in Afghanistan as well. We have a specific program called Afghanistan Learns Online. This is for those high school students whose schools have been shut down by the Taliban. And we want to provide these high school classes so they can take these classes, graduate, and go for post-secondary education. So, and they example of diaspora. So we have students in Afghanistan who are also activists, and we have volunteers, Afghan volunteers in diaspora who connect with these students over the internet to help them whatever they need, whether it's like English language training, writing an application, writing an essay, or just help them access to resources on the internet. So I think that's a very good combination. This is something that we need to build on. This is something that we need to strengthen to make sure that the principles of democracy and human rights don't die under the current political change and world order, because human rights are also under the threat in the free countries like North America, in some countries and in Europe as well, because some European leaders they're forgetting the importance of human rights, and they're forgetting what happened to killing fields, what happened to Afghanistan, what the Taliban did. And a great example is this, that when the Afghan government collapsed and the Taliban returned, the Norwegian foreign affairs, they flew the Taliban leaders on private jets to come to Norway for so-called dialogue. And it was all over the news as well. So this is why and some people, Afghans and human rights activists in diaspora, raised that and spoke against it and brought the attention of the leaders that how wrong that was. So their connection relationship is very important.
Thank you both for sharing. I wanted to ask a question about the US. We have a lot of US listeners. So we wanted to, maybe get some advice or hear your perspective. As I'm sure you've seen in the news in the United States, there's been attacks on universities, crackdown on freedom of speech, and even, changing of the truth to kind of fit with the current government's ideas of what they want to present to the public. And so I'm curious to ask, what do you think of what's happening? And, as people who have experienced this sort of twisting of truth and, crackdown on freedom of speech, how do you, or what kind of advice do you have for people who want to stand up against this or organize a movement to combat against freedom of speech crackdown and things like that?
I want to say to the Americans and the American people, if a 17 years old girl can stand up for her rights to go to school, you Americans in one of the biggest country and one of the wealthiest and freest country, you can do it. Do not take any message, any rhetoric, any untruthful facts or anything from the current administration and current leaders. Stand up for your rights, because the freedom that you bragged about and the freedom that you always celebrate on 4th of July and other days is under the threat. The Americans really need to be intelligent. And in addition to that, they need to get up and take actions, because the US is under the threat and the current administration is thinking to bring martial law. They have deployed many ICE officers and other army officers and in the city, in the Washington DC and other countries to control people. This is how authoritarian starts. This is how authoritarian regime starts. And this is how they will lose their freedom in the country. Those Americans who think that the current administration will not threat their freedom to celebrate 4th of July and to have the freedom to whatever post or whatever say, they are being naive. It's so foolish of them to think about it. And USA has a specific obligation and responsibility towards Afghanistan, because it was USA who invaded Afghanistan after the 9/11 attack and in 2021. It was USA who promised human rights, democracy, women's rights, girls' education, and prosperity to the Afghans and the Afghan youth in Afghanistan into the 2021. My family was in Peshawar, Pakistan as a refugees when the Taliban ruled first time, and I was a child. My family returned to Afghanistan after the American invasion because these were all those promises from them. The reason that I was able to go back to school and I went to my judo club to practice judo and eventually make it to the Olympics because of these promises, because of the work that USA did at the beginning. So NATO countries and USA on the lead have a huge responsibility and moral obligations towards Afghanistan and Cambodia and other countries. Why? Because they were heavily involved. They spent money, time, energy, and even their soldiers, their troops in those countries to protect democracy and human rights. I urge to all the Americans, whatever capacity you have, use it to do not let democracy and human rights collapse in the US, because if it collapses in the US, it will collapse in the rest of the world, because USA is very influential on the rest of the countries. And do not take any oppression or oppressive regime from any of the tech billionaires, because we are under the era of tech feudalism, and they're influencing and they're changing the world order, which is very, very dangerous. These billionaires who are in power, they're a huge threat to the democracy. We need to be aware of that. And again, if a 17 years old girl in Afghanistan can stand up for her rights, you Americans can do it too. Thank you.
Very inspiring, Freeba. Like she said, like Freeba said, if you know, a 17-year-old girls in Afghanistan can stand up for their right, a free country like the U.S., you know, you should use your freedom of speech to the full capacity as it can. One thing that I saw is the most beautiful thing about the United States is it have check and balancing of power. No man can run a third term. No man can implement a permanent law like in California. I see it firsthand, you know, martial law being implemented, like, you know, National Guard being put on the street, you know, crackdown on protester. But as a result, what happened? California government able to push those people, National Guard outside of California and say, you know, you cannot implement this law in our state because it's got to go through the governor. And this is where I see, you know, the U.S. check and balances come in play. And as a result, I see that, you know, a strong democratic state like California was able to somewhat, you know, yes, they do receive hard time from, you know, like a federal government agency, like massive crackdown on innocent people. Even if you have green card, you're not safe. You're being stopped, you know, at the car wash and so on. But at the same time, we have a balances of power, like judges was able to say that this is not right, and we can, you know, push those people outside of our state. And one things that I saw, like in the U.S., that can challenge those is I like to call it protection plus projection. Like, you know, youth voices in America is very important, especially in university. They are very harder to silence. Even though, you know, a person claimed that fake news or fake medias, but the youth, a younger generation in the United States was able to distinguish what is the fake news and what is the true news through research. And I myself also attend, you know, university in United States, California. One thing that I taught in university is to do researches not from any news media, but from a school, how do I say it, resources that, you know, unbiased, that able to write an article or, you know, paper on, you know, thesis statement, like you want to present yourself, you know, to show your unbiased opinion, like they said, they said, I said, and able to use a middle ground to distinguish, is this person said is true or what I said is true, and able to come up in the middle ground. And how do I say it? Distinguish between fake news and real news. Like one prime example I can think of is in Cambodia, authoritarian dictatorship. They only have one media. They don't have anyone to challenge those people, the one in power, the capitalists or the regime. So when you see that when there's only one news media inside the country spreading information, the youth who doesn't have the capacity to do research and critical thinking believe what the government said. But in the United States, you have many outlets that challenging another outlet. Let's say the new administration, they like to be exact, Fox News. You have like CNN, like other media's new outlet to challenging those type of news. So when you as the listener, you want to find the truth, you can do your own research on internet that is unfiltered and find a news in the middle that able to not influence your ideology, and you able to come to a middle ground and say, okay, this is what I think. So in the United States you still have the I, the what I think, I believe, instead of I heard it from these new medias and I believe them. So to me, as a Cambodian who grew up in the United States, this is the most important power that the younger generation has, and you must use it because you can express yourself freely without being arrested or being killed like the youth in Cambodia would have expressed their opinion. So like Freba said, express your power to the fullest as much as you can, as much as the Constitution allowed you to do. So in Cambodia we call the United States as the father of democracy. So the founder was able to create this constitution and law to protect you. Why not use it to its full capacity? So this is what I have to say.
Yeah, thank you both very much. That's very
Mhm.
grounding and really, really important to hear for us and for everyone who's listening. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you both. We wanted to give you both a minute, some space if you want to ask each other questions. Samadhi, I know you had some
Mhm.
ideas of things you were wondering about Freeba's
Mhm.
article and things like that. So if either of you have something to say or ask, now would be a great time. If not, we can move
Mhm.
on. But yeah.
Okay. Um, Freba, any question for me? I can just ask you if anything.
Sure, I'm very curious to know about the
Mhm.
youth population in Cambodia.
Mhm. So the youth populations mostly by third-party sources, not from the regime, because they don't really spread any true informations on regarding the youth. From what I checked, is basically between 70 to 75% of youth between the age of 18 to 35 years old, and most of the youth inside our country does not receive any education past college educations. Mostly is from first grade to 12th grade. Once you hit a legal age to receive a passport to go to another country, they would take this opportunity to find jobs in another country like, South Korea and Japan. So they can send money back home because in Cambodia, they make around $150 a month, while going to South Korea, you make around, $2,000 a month. And in Cambodia, due to corruption and microfinance, 80% of the family own debt and high interest rate to the government and to microfinancing banking. So our youth population, as much as I hate to say, they are not being brought up the right way, and the regime basically doesn't want them to receive any higher education because this can challenge their ruling and power passing from generation to generation. So yes, around 70 to 75% of youth between 18 to 35 years old, and mostly they live outside the country of Cambodia.
That was very helpful information. Thank you, Samadhi. Just another
Yes.
question came to my mind just as as you were talking about youth, because I teach youth as well. I teach them
Mhm.
judo in Canada, and we have online classes as well. I'm very genuinely curious if you would be open to opening a dojo, a judo center for youth in Cambodia, because that's also right to education, right to physical
Yeah.
literacy and democracy, just to be able to go to your dojo judo center and practice and be the person who you want to be.
I would like to. I would love to if they allowed us to open. But in Cambodia, once they know that this institution, or let's say even a coffee shop, even if you know that it was owned by a human rights activist, the regime will like trying to give problems, so people won't go to that place to support your business, because what they don't want is us to create like uh, a revenue places to funding human rights activists, or to oppose them. So they would do everything that they can to shut down that institution or a place that being opened by a human rights activist. So it's very tough inside the country. But yes, if is possible, I would like to open a judo inside Cambodia, so the youth can also take on to Cambodia. This is a foreign education, a very unique introduced to Cambodia.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
it does same in Afghanistan. As soon as there's
Yeah.
like a human rights names or organization
Mhm.
names associated with one of any activities, even if it's like a chai khana, like a coffee shop or
Yeah.
something, the
Yeah.
Taliban will find ways to crack it down. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Yes. Thank you, Freeba. And yeah, so for me, like I've been wondering, what moment in your life since you were in your youth, decide that you decide that I'm not stepping back. I want to keep studying. Every trip outside the house feel uncertain, even though you keep pushing, to educate young women when you in the advocating for the youth inside the country when you used to be inside or outside also. Yeah.
My activism started from a very young age. I
Yeah.
think that's not very natural to me, because as soon as I was old enough to speak and to learn things, I knew like I have the same rights as my brothers and my male cousins and the boys in the community. So at age of 5, to be specific, at age of 5, there's a story that my siblings always remind me, and they tease me about it too. In Afghanistan, because it's an Islamic country, we celebrate Eid. That's like our Christmas. So I was 5 years old. This is like a Christmas dinner, like Eid dinner. And the tradition is that parents buy new clothes, specifically new clothes for the kids at home for Eid. So my brother asked me, who's like a few years older than me, my mom, that, hey mom, did you get my new clothes? And my mom said yes. And I asked my mother the same question, like, did you get me any clothes? Of course, my mother did, but my brother immediately spoke, and he said, as a joke, just to tease me, how siblings are at that age, at 5 or 6, and he said that you're not getting any clothes because you're a girl, any new clothes. And I minded that. I wrestled with him, and I tipped him over, flipped him over. I was like, no, you can't say this to me. I want to have the same rights as you. My mom gave me my clothes as the gift immediately, but I think the fire was in me since a young age, because even as a young age, at age of 5, I believe that if you're born, if you exist, you have human rights, and you have the right to do whatever you want to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist at the first place. So that has been my principle and my drive from a very young age. That was a very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, Freeba, you said you want to give opportunity to young girls in Afghanistan to basically come outside and receive educations. How do you persuade their families or parent, saying that coming to the West or the democratic country was able to give them a better education, because they have family back home also. What if their family is being used to threatening, young girls who really want to pursue, outside educations. But inside, after she got out, her family is still inside the country. And if they saw her as a threat, they could threatening her family also. And this would jeopardize your whole, fight for the education of a younger generation.
Yes, that is a constant challenge I face and I go through. Each time we shortlist applicants, I meet with their parents online. I let them know what is this program about, and we are very transparent because we are a nonprofit. All the reports, pictures, everything is very transparent, and we are very honest with the parents as well. What is the program about? Where the students can stay? What education they're getting? So normally the families are open that because this is the family of the young generation, then there are parents who want to have democracy, women's rights, and education in Afghanistan, and who also want to see progress in Afghanistan. So they're usually open to that, and because they know that Canada is a very nice country, Canada is very multicultural and very diverse, and it has a very good education system. So they're open to that. But sometimes we do see families are reluctant to this, and we talk to them. We tell them about the value of education for their daughters. For example, if their daughters go to school, she will graduate with one of the schools, like reputable schools in the world, where she will have documents, transcript, and diploma, and she can go for post-secondary education. And when she has post-secondary education, she can have a job and career and income where she can support her family. Because this is the generation whom we call it the post 9/11 generation, and the post 9/11 generation has been fiery. They have been very enthusiastic and want to see progress and have human rights. So they fight for their rights within their families as well, because these girls, we also call them the self-selected, because these are the ones who wake up and they say, no, I want to have change. I can't live under the Taliban regime anymore. I have to find a way out, and I have to find a way where I can have my education. So they find Women Leaders of Tomorrow and they apply for our scholarships. But it is a constant challenge among the Afghan community and society as well. And we always have one-on-one conversation and mentorship with the young girls as well, that if you get an education, it will increase the number of educated Afghan women and girls. And the more educated we have, the less we have that will be more normal. It will normalize girls' education among the Afghan families and communities. And then it will become more easy in the understanding and their visuals that this is becoming very normal. Very good question. They don't have any specific problem with the Western education system, but they do have some concerns about like some cultural practices. For example, we don't eat pork. Muslims don't eat pork, but Canada is so nice about that, and we have freedom of religion in Canada. It's so diverse that everybody has the understanding that there are certain people that don't eat pork. There are some Jewish people who don't eat pork. Vegans don't eat pork. So there are a lot. And they're very understanding than that. And we tell them that this is the menu at their school. Like, here's like the kosher, here's the halal meat section, and there's a vegetarian, vegan, because nowadays people have so many dietary restrictions. And then it gives them the comfort that their kid is going to be okay in Canada.
Thank you, Freeba.
Yeah, wonderful. Really great questions. And I was, happy to hear your answers. So as we wrap up, we just had one more question for you both to end it off. As we were reading through the articles for issue 44, we were talking about what we expected and what we were guessing that people were going to write about. And I noticed that I was expecting a lot more doom and gloom, people not hopeful for a future, feeling really negatively about where we are. And obviously, there's truth to all of that. But there was also a resounding theme of hope in most of the articles, coming from different places and expressed in different ways. But I guess we just wanted to close off by asking you both, what gives you hope? Are you hopeful about the future? And if so, what drives you? Yeah.
So what drives me is basically on the grassroots level, the small victory. You are fighting against a regime who's been in power for over 40 years. If you have the ideologies of coming into it saying that I gotta change this regime, the regime, tomorrow, this would be impossible. You're gonna burn out. You're gonna trying hard, and you're gonna feel like the world's gonna leave you behind. So it's best to focus on small victory. For example, if you can educate 10 youth, not to being influenced by the brainwash or the agenda or propaganda of the regime, then it would be successful. Those 10 people can go educated another 10, and it's going to be like a dominoes effect. 5 years from now, you're going to have thousands of people who, have their own ideologies and way of critical thinking and completely want to adapt the idea of, democracy in hope that one day they can bring in their life that they have in South Korea and Japan into Cambodia. And for Cambodian, I have a very high hopes, and that's what drives me every day because we have a large diaspora, and those people have a taste of what democracy tastes like. And when they go back into the country, the regime not gonna arrested 50,000 people who just go to Korea to find job and sending money back home, right? So those people, when they go back home, they're able to tell story in their life of what it's like in South Korea and what democracy is like. And when it comes democracy, it come development, it come economic boost, it come high paying jobs, it comes with materialistic items. You able to dream of what you want to dream, like having nice house, having nice car, buy nice clothes. So this will penetrate deeply into the Cambodian youth, and they feel like they live in inside the country. They feel like they live in an era of communist, just like Mao Zedong era. So this would shows them and even implement the ideologies of how North Korean living and compare to, because the best community that we have, diaspora we have, is in South Korea. And in South Korea, they always taught you of why North Korean become North Korean today. And usually we take the younger generation go to a spot called Gwangju, is all the way located all the way down of South Korea, almost touch the ocean. That's where the democratic movement happened in South Korea, and this is what happened. This is what shaped South Korea to become a democratic South Korea it is today. Without Gwangju, without the resistance, South Korea would have been North Korea. The whole country would not be divided. And after we showed them the history of South Korea, they was able to distinguish between dictator and a democratic, country, between South Korea and North Korea. It would, when they go back into Cambodia for vacation, they would be able to tell this story to their parent of how, an old day of, the Khmer Rouge resonating today of the regime and how they rule the country, to one day they want to see the vision of a free and democratic Cambodia, just like South Korea. So this would give me hope. And yes, focusing on the small victory will help push you to this fight. And right now I'm 25 years old, and this is like a blink of an eye. So 25 years from now I'm going to be 50, so I'm going to be looking back at it, to see how much work I have done, how many people I educated on democratic value. And what put me in peace is I know that my work won't go in vain. There will be many younger generation carrying my torch, toward democracy. And another thing is nothing lasts forever. The regime will change. If a Roman Empire falls, so is the Cambodian regime. I don't think Cambodia gonna be in dictator 100 years from now. The world is evolving. We have internet, social media, TikTok era, so you cannot hide stuff like you did back in the day anymore. So this would give me hope.
For me, yes, I have hope, and I'm hopeful for the future and near future as well. And hope is the only thing that I have right now. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a billionaire, nor I'm a politician. I don't have weapons, but I do have hope. And hope is the only thing that will keep us going. And hope is the only thing that we are clinging on it right now. In Afghanistan, the situation is dire, devastating. It's beyond comprehension what's happening to women's rights and human rights right now, and to the ability to learn. And hope is like a candle for us burning in a dark room. If the candle is turned off and put away, we all die, and we can't afford to turn off the put the candle away. So I have hope, and we are hopeful. And my hope is that the more educated youth we have, the better chances of winning over this tyranny, over these oppressive regimes in the world. And my hope is also to connect with the rest of the human rights activists, with the rest of the world, to make our forces stronger and bigger. Because in Afghanistan, we have a saying that the power of crowd is the power of God. So we need that crowd. We need that crowd of youth activists from Cambodia. We need that crowd of people from Afghanistan. So I am hopeful for the future.
Well,
Yes.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I just want to say thank you, Freeba. You know, even though you a continent apart from Afghanistan and from Cambodia, but our fight is the same. You know, dictators stole one playbook from one another. So it gives me hope, you know, to learn from you, and also know that I'm not in this fight alone. Yes, I'm very hopeful. Not because the repression is weaker, but because our network of activists becomes stronger, wiser, and more global. Thank you, Freeba. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Samadi, and I 100% agree with you. You know, the dictators are not smart. Why? Because wherever there's a pressure, there's resistance.
Yes.
And the resistance and there's resistance, like there was resistance in World War II in France. They won. In Germany, they won. And I believe we will win too.
Please go ahead, Ivan.
I just want to say, if you guys have anything, either of you have anything else to say at the end, this is your time.
I mean, we can end up on you know, the word of hope, and the belief that freedom is a practice, democracy is a practice, and I believe every call that Frida made, every call that the diaspora, you know, activists globally made, and every fact checking against the regime, every child we educated, like Frida's student, and our youth organizer in the diaspora globally, move the line higher and higher against the regime, and what make impossible more possible. So this is just the note I want to end. As an activist, you need hope to keep fighting. Don't lose hope.
I just want to thank Ella, Yvonne, and Lisa for giving me this opportunity and amplifying our voices, our work, and connecting me with Samadi. We are in this together. Supporting each other is crucial right now because we can't afford to be divided. We must unite against these oppressive regimes everywhere in the world, because human rights and principles of human rights are stronger than these dictators and their edicts and their weapons. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm just grateful for this moment and this conversation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. That's all the questions we have. Thank you both, Freeba and Samadi, for this conversation. It's truly been an honor to hear about your experiences, your passion for justice and democracy, and to, of course, learn more about all that you do to unite people across the diaspora and to fight against injustice. Your work is truly an inspiration, and so we're happy to be able to share your stories with others and to hear from you. We would love.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Yeah.
We would love for you, both of you, to keep us updated on your progress and your work. Please don't hesitate to keep in touch with Shuddhashar or to contribute again to anything in the future.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, Ela, and Lisa, and also Freeba also for make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
All right. Have a wonderful day.